I've said it before, I'll say it again. You can't trust a forward. Listen to my words tonight. Don't just fall in love with my face. I used to be somewhat of a big deal, wheeling, dealing, no bucket in the warm-up, people carrying my bags in. How many times do I have to tell you through text, let's talk about the PK? That is a dirty hit that needs a response. I like a stiff, stout pillow. We'd rather dress nobody than dress you.
The only thing I like better than easy points are free Slurpees.
Goalies embellish all the time. He tumbled over like he was hit by a Zamboni. Am I this good, or are we just winning by 7 goals, and that's why I'm out here? Just say, I know you're right, Struddy. Just get it out. I think I am the modern-day Ronnie Dangerfield.
Yeah, I get no respect.
And now, Weiss Johnson presents Struddy's World. Here's your host. He's the Kenny to my Dolly, and we got something going on. It's Jason Strudwick.
What's going on today, everybody? Snowy day here in Alberta for all of our friends here. I hope you're able to shovel and drive home and around the province safely as we're getting hammered with some snow. The good news is the Oilers won last night, and they're heading to Boston to take on the hot Bruins, 7-3 in their last 10 games. The Struddy Show is brought to you by our good buddies at Weiss Johnson Heating and Air Conditioning. Should you need a new furnace, air conditioner, hot water tank, or garage heater, Weiss Johnson is now offering 24 months, no interest, equal payments, OAC, to make your purchase easier heading into the Christmas season. Their family helping your family for nearly 50 years. Visit wjjingle.com for more exclusive specials just for Got Your Back Jingle lovers. From everyone who's going to be out there shoveling, let's hear it.
Weiss Johnson,
Yep, it's coming down here, but the Oilers are kind of rounding into form. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. Zubes is obviously with me as well. We've got Jack Michaels coming to us from Boston, talk about what he's seeing with the Edmonton Oilers. He's our man on the ground. And then we've got Jamie McLennan. We'll talk a little bit about the Oilers and kind of through the rest of the league with Noodles. And then get off the fence. We're talking NBA Cup. What is it? Yeah, I'll tell you what it is because it's 3 years old. And I don't really know anyone who watches it. Zubie, no snow for you in Kelowna, I'm guessing, buddy.
No, wind and rain. The wind actually was so loud it woke me up in the middle of the night, and then it's just whipping. And our neighbors have this. Our neighbors have a like a cover on their back porch that has like kind of a metal top, and it's not completely secured. And if the wind's really whipping, a corner of it will like come up and wham, like big crashing down. And I think that was the thing that I heard that woke me up. So yeah, it's been the offshoot of what's going on in the West Coast coming up here. And as I told you just before we started, my wife had to run outside this morning and hold all the blow-up dolls, as you like to call them, all my Christmas blow-ups from flying away. So I think I need to do a little bit of retooling out there today once the wind settles down.
Strap them down. They got to be strapped down properly or you got to unplug them. That's what I've learned. I had a massive Santa that got destroyed. My wife refused to pull the plug on it when I wasn't home. I'm pretty sure it was intentional. Yeah. And I actually called it a homicide. She killed one of my blow-up dolls in the front yard. So still haven't gotten over that one, Zubie. The Oilers, 2-3 on this current road trip. They've got the Bruins tomorrow. We'll have a post-game, obviously, for you then. And then an afternoon game, a matinee, as they call it in movie business, 1 o'clock Wild. We'll also have a post-game for you after that one. The Oilers are, they're getting wins. They're playing better in a lot of areas, but there's one area, Zubie, I can't get over. I can't get over it. Yeah. Shogger's holding me off. Don't talk about it. I've got to talk about it. I got to get it out of my issue. So let's get right into it as we get up to speed now, brought to you by McDonald's. Who's of Canadaville do be warned, the Grinch is back and he's feeling quite scorned. He's built a worst box with odd socks as a prize and even left behind a Who Hash surprise. Looking to see the Grinch's big reveal, it's only McDonald's, his Grinchiest meal. For a limited time only while supplies last at participating McDonald's restaurants in Canada. So, Zubie, you know what I'm talking about. Let's tell everybody else what we're talking about. We want to hear from you on the stream. We love getting your thoughts. We'll get to those later and ask Struddy and answer those questions. The bottom six. The bottom six is not doing what we expected at all. Now, there are some injuries. We know Roslovic's out, not sure when he's coming back. Kapanen was close to coming back, but he is not quite where he needs to be just yet. So think about it. Kapanen is at times an in and out of the lineup type player. And to start the year, Roslovic wasn't even on the team. So what has gone wrong in this bottom six? Well, I think we've identified a couple. One, you've got Trent Frederick, who hasn't found his confidence. He's not playing like I know he can, and that's really jumbled up that bottom six. Another feature, I think you've got Mangiapane trying to figure out where he fits on this team. What does my role look like? I wonder if he knows if he's able to carry that out. Last year, he was mostly a bottom six player at the Capitals. Did get, I think it was 14 goals, if I remember.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to, right around there. And he hasn't been able to do it yet. So, Henrique, he's a very smart player, not the fastest guy on the planet, but very smart. And you've got some youth. They brought up Clattenburg, out of nowhere. Curtis Lazar is coming in. To me, almost looks like you can't take him out of this bottom six. Yeah. So Zubie, there's a lot we have to sort out here. If you're I guess I don't have to do anything, but we can talk about it. But the Oilers have to sort out as we look at this bottom six right now.
Before I get to my thought about sort of as being the voice of the fan for an idea everybody else has got there, I look at the guys and I think Trent Frederick is not scoring, but he is hitting. Those show up on the score sheet. He's hitting. It might not be the level of physicality or nastiness that people kind of want from him. Adam Henrique is also not scoring, but he's winning faceoffs, and he wins critical faceoffs, and that's a big part of what he's there for. So I hate that this is just kind of a thought that's coming to me now, but I hate to kind of look around, and I don't know why, but Mangiapane's the guy for me that's like, what are you doing? What are we getting from you? He had, I think, 4 assists over Schauger mentioned on the show the other night, 4 assists or something, but still in 18 games or something. Like it's listless, and I don't know. That's the guy I want to point at for some reason.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. I'm sure there's a lot of people feeling that way as well. So someone might say, well, Struddy, the team isn't worried about it. I think they are. And let's hear now in our digital inbox, brought to you by Timberhouse Developments, the leader in custom and infill development. If you're tired of cookie cutter, copy and paste designs with no soul, see our buddies at Timberhouse and discover how naturally inspired living can make your life better. Take all the guesswork out of your infill project and work with experienced leaders. Visit timberhouse.ca. Again, if you don't believe me, don't believe Zubie, no problem. Let's listen to head coach Chris Knobloch post-game when asked on what's going on with this team right now.
I don't assume we're going to consistently score at this level, be able to put up as many goals as we have in these last few weeks. We've been very fortunate. We're doing a lot of good things, but to expect us scoring that many goals, we just got to, get better defensively, eliminate those goals against. That's taking fewer penalties, checking a little bit better. But it's nice to see guys getting rewarded. But you look at the scoring, and it's mostly on the shoulders of Connor and Leon.
There it is. The scoring is mostly on the shoulders of Connor Leon. Now, to be fair, Hyman's kind of finding his groove again. Podkolzin and Savoy are going again. So let's call it 5 out of the top 6 guys. And Nuge, we know how he touches so many different parts of the game. So I think I can comfortably say that Chris Knobloch and most fans are satisfied with the way the top 6 are rolling. Let's look at some of the goal totals for the bottom 6. For goals for, goals against. Trent Frederick, 8 goals for, 17 against. That's where he's on ice for. Tomaszek, 6-4, 10 against. Noah Philp, 3-4, 10 against. Mangiapane, 15-4, 29 against. Adam Henrique, 8-4, 19 against. Is there anyone I'm missing in there? Curtis Lazar, 3-4, 6 against. Played a lot less. Clattenburg, only 5 games, 1 goal for, and 0 against. So when I see that, when I know some of those guys have played up, I get it. But basically, my concern is they're taking on water. I don't have a ton of expectations right now for this bottom 6 to find a massive scoring touch, but you've got to play more even than they are, right? They've got to find a way to be even. The top 6 are rolling. The power play is good. Penalty kills slipping a little bit. Last time I checked, they're around 20th. I'd like to see that in the top third of the league. They're right now barely hanging on to the second third of the league. Goaltending with Tristan Jarry, I think it's going to be more consistent than we saw under Stu Skinner. The D, they're still awaiting the return of Wallman. Yep. In the meantime, some of those guys are taking on quite a bit of water. But to me, this bottom 6 has got to be a massive area of concern for the Oilers for the reason I just laid out.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue into this other, as we've got Jack waiting, but we'll just have one more thought here before we get to that, which is that there's this idea being floated. It's kind of a fan idea, but people were talking, even before Quinn Hudson was called up, the idea of this kid line. And the interesting thing about it is now 2/3 of this kid line that people are kind of dreaming about, which is Quinn Hudson, Matt Savoy, and Isaac Howard, 2/3 of it is on the team now. And so outside of cap constraints and roster numbers, Struddy, if you want to get a little bit of energy or some scoring maybe from your bottom six, what's the reason not to do this, not to bring Isaac Howard up and give those guys a shot and give them 9 minutes a night or equal to whatever the other bottom six line is getting?
Yeah, so let's just throw the cap out for a bit and just say we can make it happen. I think in the case of Isaac Howard, I want to continue to have him just regular shifts in the minors and growing. There's a lot he has to learn about the game, especially away from the puck. He won't learn that playing in the NHL. Let him figure that out in the minors. So that'd be my main one. But if when Roslovic comes back, if he slots in back beside Leon, which I'm assuming that'll happen, then that does leave Savoy and Quinn Hudson, who's up right now. And what does that look like? That's a lot of speed. I thought Hudson looked really quick, a lot quicker than last year on the wing. We know what Savoy can do. And do you put him with Henrique, who's a bit of the wily veteran? Not the fastest guy, but knows how to get the puck to guys. Again, I am concerned about goals in the bottom six. I'm against. And can you prevent goals against and spend time in the offensive zone? So we'll see what happens. I think it's a worthy question. A lot of fans will love to reunite that Joe Murphy line and Adam Graves and Marty Jelena. Are these guys going to do it? I don't know. But I know they just have to find something because the bottom six right now seems like an unfinished product, to put it very kindly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into Jack Michael, the voice of yours. Sorry, Jack Michaels, not Jack Michael, the voice of your Edmonton Oilers. There, you can find him at Twitter, Edmonton Jack. Jack, I'm having this conversation about the Oilers bottom six, and the point is, I just feel that there's, Trent Frederick hasn't found his game. I think that's a big part of maybe what they're hoping for down there. Mangiapane's still trying to maybe find his identity, and there's others that are, capping it out. What are you seeing from the bottom six? I think the top six is pretty organized and firing quite well now, Jack.
Well, absolutely, especially with the way Vasily Podkolzin's playing. I mean, for me, that's been the biggest riser for the Oilers in terms of what was, potentially there, or, there was the perception that if Rick Tocchet didn't like this guy, then where is he going to fit in? Because he seemed like Tocchet's kind of player. And instead, he's been a real revelation. He's the league's plus minus leader with, 100 hits plus. In other words, he's combined being physical with not getting himself out of position and being outstanding at even strength. He's one of the top 5 players in the league with respect to his numbers at even strength as compared to his teams. I mean, I don't think anyone had that. I also think, and you touched on it, when Jack Roslovic comes back, you're going to have at the same time Matt Savoy and Kasperi Kapanen leaking into your bottom six. There's also still the very real possibility for me, and what I would like to see is, Quinn Hudson for me, if he's third in the American Hockey League in goals and fourth in points, that's a guy I'd consider giving a real top 9 look, maybe a top 6 look. It's tough, and it's not 1995 when you broke in the league, Struddy. It's not 1995 anymore. You don't bring up a guy who's among the league leaders in scoring in the American Hockey League and stick him on the fourth line and play him 7 minutes a night and expect to get results. Not offensive results, anyways. I'm sure Quinn Hudson knows how to play. He played in a structured system at Boston University. But one of the things I think we're eventually going to see is, more tinkering in the top 6. I think to revitalize the bottom 6, I think you're going to see Nugent Hopkins at center. And maybe if he's playing with guys like Savoy and Kapanen, you start to see more production out of that third line. And who knows? With Quinn Hudson, maybe you discover some chemistry that you haven't had to this point. McDavid, I know it's the old reliable with Nugent Hopkins and Hyman, but I think this team becomes that much more dangerous if you can add another top nine guy, Hudson, to the Savoy and Roslovic mix. And now you start, finding contributors in other places. It's fine in the regular season. McDavid and Draisaitl and Tristan Jarry's 2 starts have combined for 14 points. But where I do agree with you is if you're going to beat Colorado and Dallas again, you're going to have some bottom 6 guys that beats the other team's bottom 6 on nights where McDavid and McKinnon, for instance, cancel one another out.
The Oilers are 4 points out of the top spot, Anaheim. They have the same number of games played. Now Vegas has a few games at hand, but we'll see what happens. One of the unique situations early in this NHL season were the Oilers and Penguins floating, each other's goalies the other way, and Brett Kulak. What was that like last night, Jack? Was it his morning skate, before the game, after the game, to have two goalies who have just been traded for each other having to go against and their old teammates?
Well, Struddy, I mean, it was bizarre, especially when you looked at the pads as compared to the mask and the stick. They were reverse images of one another. It was like the reverse retros during the COVID year. It was a strange atmosphere. I think, Stuart Skinner looked like a guy who was almost relieved to be out of the crucible. That's Edmonton. And I think from Tristan Jarry's standpoint, I think he realizes what an opportunity he has. He's a little bit older than Stewart, and unlike Stewart, he has not gotten to the pinnacle. Really, he hasn't sniffed serious contention since he's been a National Hockey League goalie. A couple of first round exits, and that game 81 a couple years ago that Pittsburgh blew with a chance to get into the playoffs. But I don't think anyone was really looking at the Penguins as making a long run. I think, as much as I have a ton of respect for what they've done, it's 10 years from that now. And
Yeah.
I have a lot of sentimentality, and I think it's neat, and I don't think we'll ever see it again in terms of Malkin, Letang, and Crosby playing together 20 years. But one of the reasons I don't think we'll see it again, Struddy, is it's not worked the last 6 or 7 years. They have not been really that close the last 6 or 7 years. So definitely a bizarre night, and a night where look, I think Sidney Crosby is one of the top 5 or 6 players to ever play the game, but the matchup with McDavid is scary in its lopsidedness. In the 16 games they've played against one another, Connor McDavid has 34 points, Sidney Crosby has 11. And the plus minuses you can imagine are, I think McDavid's now a plus 18, and Sidney Crosby is a minus 13. It's just not a matchup that works for Pittsburgh. And even if Malkin was in there last night, this is not a matchup that works for Pittsburgh. They've given up 46 goals in their last 9 matchups with Edmonton. So there was a lot of fun stuff about last night's game, but Edmonton, Pittsburgh, if the Oilers show up, that's not a matchup that's going to work out for the Penguins. The only game where Pittsburgh beat Edmonton in the last 9 was kind of a no-show by the Oilers last January.
Jack, Leon Draisaitl breaks through 1,000 points. What is it, 850 games or something like that? I think his next big milestone, he's sitting in regular season at 416 goals. So 500 goals. I mean, I saw him play in junior. Now, I'm not a scout, but I watched him play, and I thought, yeah, this guy, I thought he'd be a second-line center. Big guy, strong on the puck, distributes it.
Well, he is, technically.
He is, but he's so much more than that. So I guess I was right. Maybe I am a good scout after all that being said.
Yeah,
but
he is a second-line center. You didn't know he was going to be drafted to McDavid's team.
Yeah. I'm an average second-line center on any team. But I guess, Jack, did you have a sense that he could score like this? Or even maybe better, when did you get the sense that he was going to be a scorer? Because as much as we talk about his passing, I think he's the same level of eliteness when it comes to scoring goals.
Well, the first time I really remember thinking, boy, it's not just me that thinks there's a player here, is when Tom McLellan pulled us aside one day and said, "Look, just so I've challenged Leon that he doesn't have to be the second best player on this team most nights." And I was like, whoa. Like, I mean, at that point, McDavid was well on his way to, his first 100-point season and MVP of the National Hockey League. He was going to win the Hart Trophy in
Yeah.
2017. And I was stunned by that.
Yeah.
And then I watched a few more games, and I'm like, you know what? There are going to be nights where Draisaitl's better. And then
Crazy.
it's just it is amazing to think on a team where you have Connor McDavid how relatively, I mean, it's only about 55 or 60% of the time that McDavid's the best player on his own team. That that
Crazy.
says a lot, and I don't think I'm exaggerating there. I honestly feel like Leon Draisaitl, the shot, he's got that big paddle, and the biggest thing for me is he gets himself lost constantly. Struddy, that the best players, and you saw this in your career, even though going in, that's your guy. There were guys ultimately where, I'm sure, hey, if you're on the ice when this guy's on the ice, not that you were always out there when those kind of guys were on the ice, but when you were, there was a focal point, right?
Yeah.
But yet you still ended up losing them. For me, the most amazing thing about Draisaitl, and for that matter, players of his ilk, 6'2", 215-pound
Yeah.
guys, is how often he gets lost and how often he gets lost and sets up in his office. He's not unlike Ovechkin in that regard, is where the damage is going to come from, and yet he still gets a couple looks from that spot every single game. And I think that's a remarkable skill in and of itself because the other 31 teams are scouting that relentlessly.
It's unbelievable. So we look forward to the next one where he gets 500. That's probably the next big celebration. It seems to be a big one. He's not that far away, probably a year and a half. Jack, enjoying B-Town, and are you going to a Celtics game?
I'm taking it easy tonight.
Okay.
The road trip is, and the road trips that have been stacked on top of one another have caught
Yeah.
up with me a lot. But I am intrigued to see this Bruins club, Struddy.
Yeah.
They have really redefined themselves inside of a year, and I thought it was real telling that Charlie McAvoy stepped up and basically said that. He goes, "It's
Yeah.
amazing how the chemistry can change from one year to the next," and whenever a guy begins with, "Hey, this isn't meant as a knock on the other guys," that it's changed for the better in one year. This Boston club, again, and we've made this mistake at times this year, from an Edmonton perspective, it's not all behind you. If the Oilers don't bring their lunch pails tomorrow night, they're going to be in trouble because this Boston club has found a way to retool on the fly and is a threat once again. And I think the biggest reason why, Struddy, is they've gotten back to what's made the Bruins a threat since you were in the league. They need a little bit of a nasty streak, and they've got it with guys like Kastelik and the disruptors out there, and an Asamon who everyone despises playing against, and
Yeah.
Nikita Zadorov. They've gotten back to their identity. They're playing for one another, and Jeremy Swayman's starting to round into form. It makes the Bruins a dangerous club once again. And I would not have said that a year ago. I thought they were going down a hole where they might be there for 4 or 5 years.
I know you're doing your Christmas shopping. I'm still a large men's medium large men's Euro cut swimwear is what I'm looking.
Yes.
Swim gear
Yes.
is what I'm looking for. So, Euro cut makes a difference, Jack. Thanks, bye. I appreciate that
I,
gift.
I will definitely check on that, and I will definitely shop in only pretty stores because I
That's it.
know that you don't want something. You're not
Yeah.
a guy that ever is going to wear something from Cabela's. So trust me,
No.
when I'm on Fashion Row, that's when I'll start looking for you.
If it doesn't say Euro cut, I don't want
Fair
it.
enough.
Jack, have a great call tomorrow night. We'll listen then, buddy. Thanks.
Cheers. Take care.
the great Jack Michaels. You can hear him at Edmonton Jack. He's a great guy. And, interesting. I love his point there he made about, the bottom six. And when the team gets healthy, guys will be pushed down. And I think that does make a big difference, eh?
Totally. And he kind of echoed what you've said before of, he said he thinks Nuge will probably end up in that bottom six when everybody's healthy. You've kind of advocated for that before. Do you still feel that way?
I do. They have to bring up that third, like the fourth line will take care of itself once you get the third line going. And, you'll be able to put the pieces in there that make sense. Is that Lazar, Clattenburg, whatever it looks like, you figure that out. But that third line right now, it just has no teeth. Really interesting what that looks like.
Kidline could be Clattenburg as the third guy if they don't.
Yeah.
He's already up.
It brings energy. Energy. So, let's see how these injuries play out, when people come back. If no one else gets injured, who goes down. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do because they need to bolster. I think that's an area they got to bolster. All right, let's take a pause here on the show. When we come back, Jamie McLennan will join us. Apparently, he's shoveling his mother's driveway right now, and he's going to pull out to talk to us for 10 minutes. So, Noodles up next, everybody.
At Modern Measure, every item of clothing starts from scratch and is designed from the ground up, based on both your style preferences and current fashion trends. Their clothing is fully designed to give you the exact look you're looking for, down to the smallest details and customization. The Modern team will work with you to make sure that you not only look and feel great, but make the most of your investment. On the ground floor of Edmonton Tower downtown, Modern Measure.
Who's of Canadaville, do be warned. The Grinch is back at McDonald's, and he's feeling quite scorned. He's tired of the holidays, he's tired of the cheer, so he'll make sure no fun is had this year. He's built a worse box, and even more odd socks. Replaced all the fries with a Who Hash surprise. So if you want to see the Grinch's big reveal, you can head to McDonald's for the Grinchiest meal.
Dennis here from Weiss Johnson. Are you looking to get into the trades or have a kid graduating high school wondering what to do? Weiss Johnson is looking for career-minded people to work for us. Opportunities truly are endless. Become a service technician, gas fitter, refrigeration technician, install residential or commercial heating and plumbing systems, fireplace installations or service, duct cleaning. We are the company where you can learn all aspects of the trade and pick which career path to take. We have an awesome benefits package and offer school reimbursement too. Visit wjcareers.com today.
Welcome back to Struddy's World. Thanks for joining us today. Lots to come, including answering your questions in about 25 minutes. But now it's time for Struddy's Buddy, brought to you by our good buddies at HSE Core Services. Need a safety program? They build it. Need to manage? They do it. Stuck dealing with those online safety registries your clients make you sign up for? Yep, they handle those too. And yes, they also do core audits. Visit www.hsccore.com. That's hsccor.com for more info. There's our man, Jamie McLennan. Noodles, you know what? What were Hayes and O-Dog thinking when you guys didn't invite me on the show Monday for TSN Overdrive after the Oilers, I would say, dismantled the Toronto Maple Leafs? Was there any internal discussion about bringing an A-guest celebrity on for the show on Monday?
They only bring you on the show when the Oilers lose. Honest to God, if Edmonton wins, it's like, hey, nothing to see here. Hey, well, let's talk about the third line with the Leafs. If put it this way, if Toronto would have dummied Edmonton on Saturday, your phone would have been ringing. You would have been on all four shows on TSN radio that day. But nothing to see here. Oh, nothing. What happened? Oh, yeah. Hey, let's Austin Matthews. Let's talk about his captaincy. Like, it literally nothing came about. Like, your phone was probably dead silent on Monday.
No, I kept checking. I thought it died because I get substantial number of texts and nothing coming from Toronto. So I knew something was up. Noodles, let's talk about, what did the Oilers get in new netminder Tristan Jarry?
I've got to be careful with my words because I was, I think I did the reaction show with you guys with Rashog and Brownie and that when I was at the airport in Chicago. I made a comment, and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to Stu, but I made a comment saying that Tristan Jarry can move side to side without falling on his face, and that
Yeah.
got a little bit of play, whether
Yeah.
positive or negative. But I think what they have is a different goaltender, a different stylistic goaltender, a little bit more athletic. They're both 6'4". Tristan Jarry, the one knock on him has just been his health, but I think he's a good goaltender. There's a lot of uneducated goaltending people out there thinking that, oh, this is a lateral move. They gave up too much, all of that type of stuff. If you just said to me, Tristan Jarry or Stuart Skinner, choose one, I choose Jarry, just because I think he has a higher ceiling for skill set. It's no slight on Stu. It's more about the player that they got. I think he is better suited for Edmonton's style of play because there is some east-west stuff. Jarry can move in the net. Yes, I've seen a few rebound issues early on. I'm shocked that he wore new pads right away. But with the new
Yeah.
pads, sometimes the pucks are pretty lively off of them. We saw the Easton Cowan goal in Toronto. That
Yeah.
was a punchy rebound. There's been a few rebounds. I think what has to happen here, Strud, is the D has to figure out how he likes to play things. He might just be a guy who has a little bit more rebounds than Stu, but they'll have to play off of that. Like, it's a different style. He has to learn how Ekholm wants to defend a 2-on-1, how Emberson is going to play in front. Like, that just comes with chemistry. It's going to take some time. But the move, they had to do something. I think they got a good goaltender who's familiar with the market, and I think he's motivated. Now, I didn't like the end of the game yesterday where the Oilers stopped playing with a minute left in the game.
Yeah.
And they give up two crappy ones, and all it does is hurt his numbers. They'd won the game. The game's over. They already had the Leon T-shirts on. It's just like, finish it off. Like, win 6-2 and life can go on. But no, it's 6-4, and we got to make his numbers look crappy. So I felt bad for him that way, but I also felt for Stu having to be 7 feet away from the celebration. And, Stu was a big part of that too. So it was an emotional game. But if you're looking at the goalie for goalie, I do think Edmonton got the better goaltender. Doesn't mean that translates to anything. He has to play well. He has to be durable. But, I could understand the rationale of the move.
What is it like to start new chemistry between two goalies as a goalie partnership in this situation? I'm guessing is it uncomfortable for both of them?
I think so. I would say no. And the reason being is Calvin Pickard's been on 18 different teams, just like me. By the end of your career, you end up well-traveled. Calvin Pickard is a really good guy. And I guarantee you, Tristan Jarry and Calvin have crossed paths at some point. Maybe it's at a summer skate because Tristan spends time in Edmonton. Who knows? But they know there will always be, and Struddy, you know this, the 6 degrees of separation in the NHL. Somebody knows somebody. So right away, Pickard gets a text from somebody going, take care of my boy Tristan, because Pickard knows somebody. It's the same thing, Struddy. You and I have had those texts. Sean Haggerty is playing. Hags is a good guy. Like that type of stuff, right? Like, so I think it's just more about understanding everything's going to be new for him. How do they travel? Where do guys sit? Weird things for the pregame meals. Like, everyone kind of sits in certain things.
On the bus.
On the bus, on the plane, all of that type of stuff. Does he play in the card game? Does he play in now these guys have toys that they bring, the video games. Does he play video games? Like, it just, is he a guy that sits and reads? Like, to me, it's all kind of new and you have to settle in. So as far as developing chemistry with a new teammate, it's just literally, hey, you're coming to a new situation. What do you need? I remember we traded for Brad Stewart when I played in Calgary. I knew he played guitar. I had a bunch of guitars at the house. I dropped one off at the hotel for him because I heard he was a guitar player. So just things like that. It just takes a little time to settle into your new environment.
Hey, can I ask a quick question? Follow up on that, Noodles?
Yeah.
On the goalie side of things, in the goalie tandem relationship development, is it made easier when the roles are really clear as well, starter and backup?
I would, yes and no, because Calvin Pickard wants to play. And it's not like Tristan Jarry's a 75 game starter. Like Tristan's a guy that can play 50, but keep in mind, like his last couple of years have been up and down. So I think that the tandem, yes, the role should be defined, but define me that role, because Tristan hasn't. He's been an all-star twice, but he's also been on waivers. He's been in the minors to rebuild his game. So I think it's more about just a mutual respect. I've been banging this drum. I think teams need 3 goaltenders on the roster. Like you're seeing it nowadays that most teams usually have 3 goaltenders that at least play one or few games for them in a season. I would be shocked if Connor Ingram didn't have games for the Edmonton Oilers this year. I think he's a good goaltender that is still working on. Struddy, turn off your ringer.
Is that me? No, I don't think it's me. I don't even have a phone. It's you.
It's me. Why are they calling my room? Nobody. Anyways, I think, I would be shocked if we didn't see Connor Ingram in the net at some point, but he's still building his game up in the minors. He hasn't been very consistent down there. But I look at it, I think it's the right move. And coming to the defined roles, I think there is, Christopher, I think there is it's an okay situation, but I don't think it's as defined as you think. I think Pickard's going to play games.
I want your opinion from the outside. Now you're in Toronto, and it looks like Stan Bowman is trying to bring in some younger legs. You look at what he's done with Podkolzin, Savoy. On the back end, you got Emberson, the newly acquired Spencer Stastny, Regula. Tristan Jarry's not a young guy, but they have Quinn Hudson up here. They have Clattenburg's up here. So it looks like they're trying to, I don't know if the right word is retool, but maybe just kind of bring some fresh young legs. And so as a team that has aspirations to win a Stanley Cup, what would be your thoughts if it was a market that you're not in every day and seeing this kind of drive to get young players into roles that are important on this team?
What stood out to me when Connor was going through his evaluation of his contract, he said the words that always stuck with me. He's like, I want to be on a team that competes for the next 3 to 5 years. It's not just an all in for this year, all in for next year, 3 to 5 years. So what I kept going back, I kept looking at the cores of teams that would be really good for the next 3 to 5 years. The one that stood out was Dallas, because you'd cycled through the Ben and Sagan, but then you had Hintz at 28, you had Rantanen at 29, you had a Heiskanen at 26, you had Lindell, you had
Johnson,
the left shot,
Robertson.
White Johnston 22, Jason Robertson 26, the goalie's 26, Ottinger. So I kept thinking to myself, that's the situation. You want to be really good right now and into the future. So I think Stan Bowman quietly, and I read an article, I can't take credit for it. It was an article in The Athletic about how Bowman's been able to reshape the whole minor league system basically within the organization and get some prospects. And to me, that's what you need. You need plug and play players. The Tampa Bay Lightning to me, are the gold standard. They play the same way at the NHL that they do in the minors. And then they develop these plug and play players so that when you lose guys on contract status, or, hey, all of a sudden Gonsalves shows up and you're like, where'd this guy come from? Oh, they've developed him. So now they can move past, say, Yanni Gord, and they brought Yanni Gord back. It's a bad example, but they've lost Blake Coleman. They've lost players throughout the years, and they replaced them. So to me, I think Stan's done a great job. I still, keep in mind, this team is still a work in progress. You need Roslovic back. You need Jake Wallman back. So now that would slot guys a little bit better. I think the trade for Spencer Stastny, they just brought in a young Kulak. A younger Kulak. That's basically a versatile, good skating defenseman. So it's been done with a purpose. And I like that. I still think they should be in on one other impact player that can play in your top 6/top 9. And that would push an Adam Henrique down. It would make it more competitive for Frederick. Guys like that who, are either wearing their age or wearing their injury right now because they don't look the way that they should be playing. The expectations for me are higher for those two players that I just singled out.
I love it, Noodles. I think that's the focus right now. The top six are rolling, power plays rolling, penalty kills sliding a bit. Goaltending now seems to be, they're satisfied. It's just that bottom six. So appreciate your time, buddy. Have a good show in Overdrive, and say hi to Brian and the old dog for me, and tell him I was available. I cleared my whole schedule Monday from 9 till 9.
If Edmonton loses 2 games in a row, you'll get the call. You know that, right? That's how it works. And I had this, what you said to Jack Michaels scarred me, because you were like, I need a European cut, like for a Speedo or something like that. Like
Yes.
I know how you work. Like there's not a lot of manscaping. There might be bush hanging out everywhere. So you can't have that stuff. Don't you dare wear a Speedo anywhere.
That's the style now, buddy. Au naturel. Au naturel.
Hair from your eyeballs down.
See you, Noodles. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
See ya later.
The great Jamie McLennan. He's really everywhere. He's like a rash across the media world, Zubes. He's everywhere, this guy.
That's just a lovely way to be described. That was a good ending there, from your body hair to him being a rash. That's I'm ready for a shower.
Yeah. Some steel wool on the tongue. Okay, let's pause here. We're gonna kick it into high gear. We'll get into taking a look what's going on around playing the field, and then getting off the fence, NBA Cup. And then we'll get to your questions. Stay with us, everybody.
Beautiful fences exist. With a wide range of styles and colors from wood grain to white, DLR Vinyl products can make your fencing project pop. Because summers are for chilling and grilling, not sanding and drilling. Go vinyl at dlrvinylproducts.ca.
So at Timberhouse, our guiding philosophy is naturally inspired living. We believe that through design, we can solve problems and enhance people's lives. We follow biophilic design principles in all of our builds to incorporate natural materials, natural light, to enhance all the spaces in a home. When you have your space perfectly reflect who you are and what you value, and it's made well, we think that that just leads to better living.
Yep. Okay. All right, it's great having Jack Michaels and Noodles on. Now we're going to hear from us, Zubes and I, then we'll get into it with you from Ask Struddy. So let's get into Playing the Field, brought to you by Modern Measure. Holiday shopping doesn't have to be hard. Give the gift of looking sharp with a Modern Measure gift card. Located in Edmonton's Ice District, they're the leaders in made-to-measure style, from tuxedos to custom denim. Buy a gift card now and get a bonus 10% extra. Committed to providing you with a 5-star experience with a personal touch and attention to detail that will exceed your expectations. Visit mdrnmeasure.com. And Chagra's getting his pretty soon, so he's very, very excited. NFL season's winding down, and big news dropped today. Now, not really surprising, Zubie, but allegedly, according to NFL insiders, Tua Tagovailoa, sorry if I said that slowly right or wrong, Miami Dolphins quarterback will be replaced by a rookie, Mr. Ewens. He'll be taking over. So this guy signed a 4-year, I think $210 million contract, and the last game was hard to watch. I've watched him a little bit because he was in my fantasy football league. Guy doesn't like cold, doesn't make great reads, but stepping away from a $50 million quarterback is, I just can't. I mean, I don't even know how you could even accept that if you're an owner. The decision your GM and coach made to step away from the A player, doesn't matter if it's Tua or anyone, for 50 sheets.
Especially when this other guy coming in isn't like necessarily their future. He is like a 7th round pick. Barely won the backup job. I forget there was another vet that they decided to go with this guy. And I know we've talked about this before. I know you don't really like Mike McDaniel as a coach. I do, but I think things have gone sideways there in Miami. I think he's done, you almost wonder if this decision, where it's coming from, because I'm not sure Mike is long for that job there in Miami.
It is, and no way better to lose your starting quarterback than to bench him. That's not a way to keep your energy going when you're with him. So Tua's out. Patrick Mahomes, also another quarterback who's out. ACL surgery. I think he actually had it on the way off the field. That's how quick they get these things done. For him, a lot of work to do there in the offseason, because honestly, the Chiefs just aren't good enough, Zoobs. They're not a good enough team. And Patrick Mahomes, he's such a great talent that he does, I think, mask some of those issues for the Chiefs. They're a non-playoff team now. They don't have their starting quarterback. They're franchise. Really, he's the franchise. So I think it gives them a chance for a couple months here to kind of take a hard look at who they are and what they're doing, because it's just not good enough.
Yeah, and obviously Andy Reid's a tremendous coach, and they're one of those teams that kind of just got by with Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid being good. And obviously their defense, is it Steve Spagnuolo? Is that their defensive coordinator? I forget. It was one of those guys whose names you always hear. But it's one of those things that, like, oh, these guys, it was almost what was kind of happening in New England when it was, Brady and Gronk and Belichick, and those guys were good enough to hide warts sometimes as the rest of the roster deteriorated. And I feel like it's kind of a similar thing happening there. But now Kelsey's getting older. He's on the downside. Mahomes still in his prime.
Yeah.
I feel like there is a chance to retool, but you can see like the receiver, they gotta give him some more weapons. There's a roster retooling that has to happen there.
They need a running game. I don't think they have a running game there. So we'll see what happens with that. Fantasy football, I think this is semifinals for most leagues coming up this weekend, of which I'm in 3. Whatever. No big deal.
I got bounced.
But I'm in 20 leagues. No,
first place, 11-2. And I got bounced by my brother in the first round. And I even put up not a bad score, but he had Amon-Ra St. Brown, got 40 points or something like that. He still beat me by 20. Ouch. So
that hurts. That hurts. Makes it awkward around the dinner table for the Christmas celebration. These post-game recognition of player of the game and those types of things have always been around with first, second, and third star. Well, now teams have taken it to another level, Zubie, where they have the coach will recognize a player with something that maybe is from the area. So like the Oilers use, pump jack and things like that. But the Canucks one caught your eye the other day.
Yeah, so apparently this is new, and so new, in fact, that I can't really find any information on. I don't know if maybe it's just related to like forestry, the forests and whatever else this symbol might be in reference to. But let's take a look at this, because to me this is kind of insane. The Canucks now have an axe. This is for real. That's Zeev Buium presenting the axe to Thatcher Demko. That is like a real axe. Look at the backside of that thing with the pick. Like, this to me, I'm sure they have it not super sharp or whatever, but this to me is crazy, Struddy, for all of the out of game non-hockey injuries we're seeing this year. We want to bring in a full axe as our. You could have even got like a toy or a replica something. I get they probably it like looks or feels cool to have the weight of it, but this, and then maybe this is just the parent in me talking, but this absolutely feels like an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous weapon, that's for sure. Maybe more than what we've seen other teams do. Listen, we never had this when I was playing, that no one ever recognized you played well except the first, second, third star, and they'd always pick the guy who got the most points. And the goalie, if the goalie played well, then after that, they maybe say, oh, this guy actually played as well. I don't like these ideas. I think it's more for the social media of the various teams to put some content on there, see the players talk. And I get it. I get all that stuff, right? You want to show their personalities. Behind the scenes is massive. That's what social media is all about. So I just some person, I'm not into it at all. I don't really care who got the axe or the pump jack or whatever, the cheese in Wisconsin. I really don't care. But I think fans do. And I think more importantly than fans, I think the kids will think it's cool, young hockey fans, to see, whoever, Connor McDavid presenting something to someone else, or I think that does matter. So that's who it's for. It's not for a 50-year-old Jason Strudwick who doesn't really care.
It's not. And I love the award given out in the, and I've started this with my hockey teams that I play for like a dozen years ago. And I bought a wrestling belt, a good one, a big metal one, and had our team's name engraved on it. And is like, this is the belt and it's important. And we give it out after every game, win or lose. I know the NHL teams only do it, I think, after a win. But to recognize it's not, and with my kids' team, Heart and Hustle, it's not always about the guy who scored 5 goals. It's about the kid who got his first goal or made a great play or finally stopped standing outside the boards crying and came onto the ice and actually played. It's, whatever you want to recognize. So I think they're fun. I just can't believe it's an axe. That's my big takeaway from this.
It is incredible. I think it is neat for younger kids. Like, I've done the same thing on the kid teams I've coached. I think it's important to have that recognition. Maybe you recognize a skill or a trait in a player you want to highlight for others. I don't think we need it at the NHL level. Honestly, I'd be like, what? What are you giving me? An axe?
So they never had it on any of the teams?
No.
Because
I couldn't imagine one of my coaches coming in and saying, hey guys, good job. Let's recognize Jason Strudwick for blocking 3 shots. Like, usually when you won, they wouldn't really say anything. They were just less grumpy for 10 minutes.
Well, because going back to, I remember even in Ryan Smith era, there was the ugly jacket. Like, that's the one I first remember of the Oilers. I don't remember what year that was, but you weren't there for that?
No, I wasn't. No, we never, nothing. If the coach came in after a win, it was just to tell you when the bus was. And if after a loss, maybe he'd tell you what time the bus was, or just go out of there and we're going to work at it again tomorrow. And I liked listening to the coach after the game, but I sure didn't need something to recognize someone. I don't know, but whatever. I mean, I guess
okay.
These kids have grown up on it, so maybe they're used to it and maybe they want it. Okay, let's move on to the next one here, Zubes. We'll go on to getting off the fence now. Brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. As Alberta's #1 vinyl product supplier, DLR offers top quality materials to build a fence or deck that won't rot, fade, or fall apart. If you need a skilled contractor to take care of the job or prefer a DIY approach, DLR can help set you up with all you need. Canadian owned and operated with locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Visit them today online at dlrvinylproducts.ca. All right, Zubie, NBA Cup. Sorry, what are you talking about? The NBA Cup. You're not familiar with it? It's a cup that happens mid-season in the NBA. It's been around 3 years. The games were good this year, and you can win it. In the past years, we've had the Lakers and the Bucks have won this. Now, they were champions of the league as well. But I think David Silver, the Grand Poobah, the commissioner of the league, is trying to get more eyes on the league by having something that matters mid-season. Now, the problem is no one growing up, like none of these NBA players growing up ever thought, man, I want to win the NBA Cup mid-season. No one ever thought that. There are other leagues, other sports that have mid-season tournaments that have maybe more history. Right now, 3 years in, this thing has no history. So to try to incentivize the players, Zubie, the winning players on the winning team get $500,000 each on top of their normal salary. So that's pretty good. You think about a guy who's maybe at the lower end of the pay scale, making $1 million or $2 million or whatever. That's a lot of cash. Now, if you're at 50 million, 500,000 doesn't move the needle a lot. But the games are good this year. The Knicks beat the Spurs to win this bad boy. The team that's been playing so well with SGA, they didn't make it. So here we are. I think it's a bad idea. I'm not going to lie. I couldn't care less about the NBA Cup. To give you a sense, the Knicks are not going to raise that banner in Madison Square Garden. The Bucks put it up, and surprisingly, the Lakers put it up. But the Knicks will not be putting that up in their building. So I think that tells you maybe how that organization feels about winning this championship, if you even want to call it a champion. So I'm not in favor of it. I don't want to see the NHL adopt something like this. I think it's a waste of everyone's time and energy. But I suppose for the league, gets more eyes on it. That's more money for the league, more money for the players. So maybe that's the reason why. But I can't see it ever being important to anyone to win the NBA Cup midseason.
Well, I'm genuinely going to take the opposite side of this, even though I think I agree that I don't think anybody really cares, and that they have to. That's the part they have to build. I think it's a great idea. If you go and look into there's only one game within the tournament that exists outside of the regular season, and that's the championship game. So all the other games, they predetermine it early in the year. They have some of these games. This is an NBA Cup game. It's for seeding, and even the playoff. I don't know if they have a quarterfinal or just a semifinal and the finals, but even those are count towards the regular season. I think they sort of flex some other games later in the year to adjust for that. So I like this idea of, and then you have this championship game. And I think for a team, like imagine this year in the early going, if you had this NHL Cup and you had an Anaheim or a Chicago or a San Jose team making it in there of just something a little extra to get some more eyes on them, because they might not be there as the season rolls along. Or even for the Oilers, maybe the Oilers would have a little bit more of a kickstart to the beginning of their season. If it's like, oh, this is an NHL Cup game. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you'll ever make the players care the same way. The money's a nice incentive. I don't think they should put a banner up or get a ring. It's just a little side thing. I think marketed in the right way, it could be really cool. You can't try to put it on the same level as the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think it has to be marketed the right way, but I think it could be a neat little addition for when hockey is in the dog days, sometimes of November and December, like the NBA is doing it. So I like it.
Yeah. I you know what? That actually is a really good point. So you're talking about getting eyes on teams that don't normally have any eyes on them, like the Anaheims, at times Utah, Florida and Tampa when they were useless. Trying to get teams that maybe have a good start to recognize that, just to get some people. And I get it. So basically you're trying to drive eyes to the game. And I get all that. I get you're trying to get eyes on any game and drive up viewership and get all that. But to call it the NBA Cup, I'm just like, maybe call it like something else, like the mid-season's dream, or I don't know, because you're really winning a cup mid-season.
I think it actually, they just call it the in-season tournament at first. And this might have been maybe the first year they actually called it the NBA Cup, because I was looking it up before. But yeah, I think the way it's marketed is really important if you want to try to make fans care and the player. But again, for the players, it's just like, it's really only one. For the two teams in the final, it's only one additional game.
Right.
With a good chunk of money on the line.
Yeah, 500 grand's a lot. I think the second place team got 250 or 200. I think if I read that. So let us know what you think. Go head into the stream. You can, we're over on YouTube. Let us know what you think about the NBA Cup if you're into it. Would you want to see the NHL do one? Personally, I say no. I don't want to see it, but Zubie makes some good points, so I could see it as well. Now, before we get into Ask Us Anything, I got Struddy. I see you've got a poll up there about who has the best all-time Christmas album, Zubie.
Yeah,
let's get into this little ditty before we get too far.
Sure. And someone asked, where's the poll today? I said, well, we don't have a sponsored poll on this show, but it's easy enough for me to put something up if someone had an idea. They didn't, but I just went with this as I love Christmas and all these kind of themes. So the question today was, who has the best all-time Christmas album? Not one song, thinking about the full album here. So the choices were Boney M, Elvis Presley, Mariah Carey, and Michael Bublé, the Boobs. And do you have one of those that would?
Well, of those four, for sure, Babes for Boobs is what I like. I love my Michael Bublé. He has a duet with Shania Twain. It's fantastic. But if I had to go a different way, it'd be Bing Crosby's Christmas album.
Okay.
I love Bing Crosby. He sings White Christmas, tears roll down my eyes. Snowing here. I was actually playing as I was prepping for the show, looking out the window, had that song just rocking in the house. My wife came down like, what is going on? I'm like, babe, I'm having a moment here. And she got it. So anything by old Bing Crosby Christmas is at the top of my list. What about you, buddy?
I think Sinatra's got a good one too. There's lots to choose from. And even more recently, there's the Canadian group, Walk Off the Earth. They got some really cool updated versions of some of the songs. But for me, I love the Bublé one, but Boney M to me is the classic, because I remember that as a kid, that even playing in my house, and it's like the disco sounds, but it's also some of it's like kind of haunting and their own spin on a few songs. So for me, it's Boney M.
So good. So good. So let us know. Get in stream. Tell us what you want. Tweet us. Get into Discord and let us know what you think. All right, Zoobs. What do the people want to know and Ask Struddy anything right now?
And Bublé won this poll, by the way, but it was very close. It was all very close. It went Bublé. It's just waiting for the results to generate here. It was Bublé and then Boney M and then the other two of it. I don't have the exact numbers on that just yet. Okay, Trizent there's a couple of interesting questions here. Trizent said, And this is like a thing with like the PA or whatever, but maybe you can explain it. Trezant said, can you explain why 400 games is such an important number for NHL players' pension? No pension before that or partial. I don't know how much of this you know or how much detail you can go into, but what's with that 400 game threshold?
Yeah, it didn't know. There wasn't like a hard thing that happened at 400, but 400 was a point where they felt that you'd have enough vested. It would be a decent amount of money. So when I played, they would just put a certain amount of money every year. Like I think my first year in the NHL, I got like $9,000 into an account that was mine, and then you'd be able to choose. It's just like a 401k or an RSP. You'd just be able to choose what you want to invest in a mutual fund, and it would just kind of roll over. And then over time, that would hopefully increase if you had a decent mutual fund and kind of go from there. Then it started going up and up. And towards the end of my career, I think it was about 40 or 50 grand, something like that. Now it's a little bit different. I can't remember exactly how it is working, but the guys are going to have quite a bit of money. I think I want to say when they turn 55 or 60, they'll get about 250 grand a year, which is quite a bit of money for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of so 400 really doesn't matter because it's based on days on the roster and games. So it's not exactly all hard number of 400 you're in, or if you're at 399, you're out.
Okay, this is great because I have to admit I don't know all the details of this. So D White says when players put money on the board, where does the money go if they win or if they lose? Can you explain? I'd love to hear your explanation of this whole thing of even money on the board. I have an idea, but I don't know exactly what it is or how it works.
So a team fund. So you have a team fund, right? The guys for parties and stuff like that, or team dinners, so that when the team goes out as a team, the money's in the team fund and that pays for your dinner. Or you're having a Halloween party, all the guys have put money in because of putting money on the board. Or even like let's say sometimes use it for someone had a baby, they'll take money out of that to pay for that type of stuff. So what happens is usually you teams you've played against, or maybe it's your hometown. Sometimes you're just sucking as a group and the captain will put, I got $2,000 money on the board for the team fund. And you're like, okay, I got 500. And you just write your number, 43, 500, 97, 2,000. You just keep write them down. And then sometimes I thought it was awesome. They say the money on the boards for the trainers. So they're every guy in the team would put, and a lot of times you do that before Christmas. So there could be like, 10, 15 grand on the board for the trainers. And so they'd get it and they could, obviously that was like a tip. I don't know if tip's the right word, but it would be, a gift for them. And that's when it got exciting. Then I think I had it happen one time where we just gave them money anyways. We lost and they got it. So the money goes into the team fund to pay for, like I said, parties or gifts or a stroller because Jason Strudwick had a baby, whatever, things like that.
So, but the idea is money on the board. If we win, this goes into the team fund. If we lose, it's back in my pocket. Is that the?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, and nothing pissed me off more than when guys didn't put money on. Michael Nylander was the cheapest guy I've ever met. He never put money on the board, never. And I played with him in 2 different cities, and I'd be like, Michael, money on the board. He would never put. He was so cheap. And it pissed me off so much because he'd go to the team parties and he'd drink like the rest of us. It was so cheap. Like, it's just about being a part of the team.
I love it. That's great. Okay, speaking of telling stories, Nick Fountain over on X wants to know, let's hear Struddy's best Theo Peckham story. Have you got a good
Teddy,
something you can share about Pecs?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, he was such a good guy and he came up and he's such a good athlete. And I don't think he fully appreciated the level of conditioning that is required to play in the NHL. And he always maybe was a little bit, not quite as conditioned as I think was needed. But man, was he a physical specimen. But I'll say this one. So he comes to training camp and he comes up to me. He's like, buddy, can you hold 20 grand for me? I'm like, what? He's like 21 years old. He's like, I've got 20 grand cash. I'm like, are you shitting me? He's like, I do. So he shows me 20 grand cash he won at the casino the night before. So I'm like, okay, Theo, do you want me to take it? And he's like, sure. So Theo gives me the 20 grand cash. So I take home this 20 grand cash, which isn't as much cash as you think. You think it'd be like bags of money. It's like, not.
Right. Yes.
So I take it home. Then a couple of days later, he's like, can I have it back? I'm like, why? He's like, I lost it at the casino. So I brought it back and then he lost it. A couple of days later, he lost it again. But I couldn't believe, like, I barely knew him. It'd be like if I just knew for a couple of days, like, hey, can you hold 20 grand cash for me? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I don't trust it in my hotel room. So I brought it home, put it in in a drawer, and then I gave it back to him a couple of days later, and that was it.
Okay, so he wasn't worried about himself losing it at the casino. He gave it to you because he was in a hotel. He was worried about the safety of it in the hotel room.
But eventually he did lose it at the casino again.
Okay.
So, but just so you know, I took my customary 10% holding fee. So
Right.
I made a tiny $2,000 out of it.
I really like Theo Peckham. He played 160 games in the NHL, all as an Oiler, it appears, and he just never caught on anywhere else. I don't know if you were around at that time, but I always thought that was surprising to me.
Yeah, I think that, like, just the level of conditioning was just not quite there with Theo. He was an incredible athlete and still one of the best guys. He comes back here for events and I see him around and but man, was he a great athlete. Just a freak, how strong and quick and agile he was and tough. He was a tough kid. Yeah, I was a big fan of him, the person. Great and player. He's a great guy.
Okay, to keep going on now, Trizent says, Pat Quinn at Earl's Theo Peckham story, please. Do you know what that is and can you tell it?
No, I don't think I know what that is. And I was around for Pat Quinn, so I don't know how I would have missed that one. I better ask around. I'll text Theo.
Okay,
Teddy.
we'll wrap this up here. Queen, this one plus we're gonna get back to something else we're gonna do in playing the field. Queen Bee Amy wants to know, Struddy, what's your prediction for tomorrow's game in Boston? Do the Oilers win? What's your gut saying?
I think they're going to lose. I think that Boston's going to come out and they're going to be bullying the Oilers. And I don't think that the Oilers have their game in that type of order to be ready for that type of a bullying. So I think they're going to get bullied tomorrow. And it'll be close, but I think I'll call it a 3-1 loss. I think Boston's going to come out and they're playing well. Like they're pretty dialed in. And I think it's going to be a hard one for the Oilers. And I don't think they're ready for that type of a battle.
All right. Will Trent Frederick be putting money on the board, do you think?
Oh yeah, he just signed a 7-year contract or 8-year contract, whatever it was, 7 or 8, whatever it is. There should be a lot of cash on the wall thanking the Boston Bruins.
Yeah. Okay, last one, Struddy. This is our last show before Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you have a Christmas sports memory that you'd like to share with our great listeners and viewers here today?
Yes. Surprisingly, I only got to play for Team Canada one time. I know what you're thinking. It's amazing. And the one time was in the Spangler Cup. That's where you go to Davos, Switzerland. I was already playing in Europe and Switzerland, and you're invited to play with Team Canada. Our coach was Pat Quinn, ironically. And I was one of the assistant captains because I think he actually knew what my name was. And honestly, it was one of the greatest experiences. Look up Davos, Switzerland if you have never seen it. The pictures, it's in the mountains. There's a ski hill running through town. And the building is incredible. I think they call it the Wooden Cathedral. It's beautiful, or the Wooden Church. Wooden Cathedral, I think. It's one of the coolest places to play hockey. I played in so many different buildings in the NHL all over. That's the coolest experience I ever had. Keep in mind, I never got to the Stanley Cup, so let's not get too dramatic here. But my family, my mom and dad, my sister and her husband, our boyfriend at the time, they came over. My wife was there. And we had the best time. Team Canada looked after us. They got to do a bunch of events. I was playing hockey, got to wear the red, white, and represent Canada. I led our team single-handedly, basically, to a silver medal. Lost in the final.
Winning, that's the word in hockey, the tough one. Not winning the silver medal means you lost the last game. That's tough. Okay, exactly. I'll share a quick story because this is what always jumps into my mind. And I had to look up when this game was. But on Christmas Eve 2005, that turned out to be, I believe that was a Sunday. Christmas Eve was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the year now. I'm trying to think I was like 28 years old. So I wasn't like a kid, but my parents and my brother and I, the four of us, I was living in Vancouver at the time. We all went down to Seattle Seahawks game.
Okay.
That was being played on Christmas Eve, and they were hosting the Indianapolis Colts, and that was prime Peyton Manning. And Manning, now the Colts were like 13-1. They had everything locked up, but they still played their starters. Manning and all those guys started. And I guess the side note to this is that on the 23rd of December, we stayed the night in Bellingham, Washington, and my brother and I got absolutely blitzed at, I don't know, some sports bar. So then we were feeling awful, terrible on the rest of the drive, which is not much. It's like an hour. And and then we got to the game, Lumen Field, the huge crowd, the Pacific Northwest air really perked us up. And the Seahawks with Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander laid a beat down on the Colts.
Oh.
And it was so great because they started the starters. They were trying. I think they played like a quarter and it was already 14 or 21-0 when they pulled all the starters. And it was like a bye-bye from the crowd. It was just like the energy and the atmosphere. Christmas Eve, and the Seahawks laid a beat down on the Colts. And it was awesome. And that's for sure, I would say, my best sports Christmas memory.
Ah, so great. What a random night, Christmas Eve, to be playing a game, hey?
Yeah, I guess when it falls on a Sunday, that's what they do. They had a full, if I recall, I think they just played like the full slate of games and then had the one Monday nighter, for Christmas Day.
And Santa got on a sleigh after the last game on Sunday night.
Yeah, that's right. He looked at his watch. Oh, crap, the Sunday nighter's over. I better get started.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in today. Thank you to our guests, obviously, Jack Michaels and Jamie McLennan. You can check them out all over social media. Jack will have the call tomorrow for the Bruins and Oilers game. Thank you to you, Zubes, for organizing and keeping on the rails. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. Tell a friend, give us a thumbs up, and spread the word. And we'll see you right around after Christmas. Any final thoughts, Zubes?
No, that's it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for being here. Happy Hanukkah, whatever, happy Festivus. Whatever you celebrate this time of year, enjoy it. A good time with your friends and family. And thanks for joining us here on the show.
We'll see you after Christmas. And Got Your Back is back tomorrow night, post-Bruins game. I'm guessing, I don't know, Zuba, 8 or 8:30, somewhere in there, 9, somewhere in there, depending on what time the game goes.
Yeah, 8:30, 8:45 Mountain Time.
We'll be ready to rock then. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great day. Shovel your driveways.